How's it going, guys? It's Noah. I just want to say thank you for all the love and support that you've given us. Caleb, Camden, and I really appreciate it. If you haven't yet, go ahead and go on YouTube, like and subscribe. It should be right here. And then if you also haven't gone, if you listen to the podcast through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, also go to Apple Podcasts if you can. Scroll all the way down. You should be able to rate it or grade it, however you'd like. But again, really appreciate the support, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
What is up, boys? Coming back with another episode. Today, we are going to be talking about quarterback sells. Me and Camden here are running the show again. Noah is out of the office doing whatever he's doing because he's just a cool guy out and about. So, Camden, how are you doing tonight?
I'm not doing too bad. What about you?
Hey, doing good. Hey, we missed you last week. Everyone was telling us so much that they were missing the George Pickens take. So hopefully we get something like that tonight.
You guys didn't do it on your own? What's going on?
It just felt wrong without you. It's your take, man. It's your take. So like we said, we're going to be talking a little bit more about some quarterback sells. So starting us off, Camden, who is your first quarterback sell in Dynasty right now?
My first quarterback sell is Deshaun Watson. And the reason he's a sell is probably the reason maybe some of you are thinking, what? He was just a top dog a couple of years ago, to which I will point to, yes, a couple of years ago. And there could be a massive suspension coming down. And there's just a lot of uncertainty about that situation. And I think there are a lot of other great quarterbacks. I mean, if you were to name off the top 5 quarterbacks fantasy right now, you got some pretty good options. So if you can get that price for Deshaun Watson, I think the price you can haul for him outweighs like what he might do and some of the risks there for me personally.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I think the thing with Deshaun Watson, he's definitely not a buy right now because whoever's holding him has been holding him probably or bought him for the exact reason that's about to happen. So you're not going to be able to buy him for the cheap. But then I would also argue, though, you're probably not going to be able to get what you necessarily want. I think like right when he got traded to the Browns, you might have been able to, get out of him maybe for like Trey Lance and some type of pick or something added on top of that if you felt like that was the proper amount. But right now, it just feels so weird. I know they announced, I think it was like a tweet today on Twitter saying something like he might only get 4 to 6 games, which I think is crazy. Anywhere between 4 to 6 games to 2 years, we don't know at this point.
Meanwhile, Calvin Ridley sitting at home because he wanted to bet under $1,500. Poor guy.
That's why I think it's probably going to. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I also don't want to talk about the ethical. I mean, it's just a terrible situation all around. So I think if you have them, you just got to hold on to them and hopefully something happens. But if you can, I guess if you can sell them for what, like who would you have to sell them for you to feel good about selling Deshaun Watson?
I kind of like Trey Lance, like you said. I will say the argument to not sell that I'll acknowledge is that the Browns have fully committed to him. I mean, they gave him $200 million of guaranteed money. So outside of suspensions and stuff, like the Browns are definitely committed to him. It's just a matter of, is he still playing at that same level he was? And if he is, what does that look like now with the top 5 other fantasy quarterbacks? I mean, you have Josh Allen, you have Patrick Mahomes, out there Herbert in there, you have Lamar Jackson. I mean, you go down the line of all these quarterbacks. He was, I think, very close or was cracking top 5 before he sat out last year. So that's just where I just don't know what level he'll get back to, but the Browns definitely are committed to him is the one thing. But to answer your question, then I kind of skirted around. I like Trey Lance a lot. We've kind of touched on it on the podcast before, my thoughts on him. I just love the floor he has with his rushing upside. Because Trey Lance, he could – I seriously think if he plays every single game, he's not going to finish outside of QB 10. And if he does really well this year, I mean, he could be QB1 with his legs. I mean, you could see a Lamar Jackson year.
No, 100%. 100%. I think Lance, not that I have a question for you after this, but I think Lance, especially, he reminds me a little bit of how we were viewing Jalen Hurts last year, where we're there's the uncertainty, but we all know he's more talented than Hurts was last year. So, and Hurts finished as a top 5.
Definitely has a better deep ball.
That's for sure.
But Jalen Hurts is really interesting. I'm kind of on the hold train for him, I guess, a little bit, because I mean, he has a good year, his stock goes way up. If he has a bad year, it goes way down. I feel like I've heard a lot of mixed reports. You got guys saying he was doing 7-on-7s and threw like 5 picks in a 10 snap series and took 3 sacks. And then AJ Brown's like, how to get sacked in a 7-on-7. Like, these reports are all wrong. He's doing fine. So I don't know. Is he blowing smoke? Is he giving us some of that Tyreek Hill? He's more accurate than Patrick Mahomes bull crap, or is he? He's an interesting one.
He is
But
an
yeah,
interesting one.
he's similar to Hurts.
So Deshaun Watson right now, just for everyone viewing, he on Keep Trade Cut, he is the quarterback 14. Trey Lance is the quarterback 8. I think Deshaun Watson is definitely undervalued, at least on Keep Trade Cut. But I have a
I agree. I've seen a lot of places where I feel like most people are valuing him whatever the rankings are showing. If you were to try to go buy him from whoever it was, so that's why I guess I'm seeing some. Is I feel like with anything, big names are important, and I just feel like his name and I guess the hype of what he was commands a bigger price than what I've seen too on the rankings.
hypothetical trade for you. Deshaun Watson. Okay, so let's say you are trading, you want something more secure at quarterback in a super flex league than Deshaun Watson. So let's say you offer Deshaun Watson and a 23 first for Kyla Murray. Which side are you taking?
I'd probably take the 23 first because I mean you got 3 quarterbacks coming up.
Yeah.
Who are supposed to be pretty good in a pretty stacked class, and yeah, we'll get to Kyler Murray in a little bit later.
Deshaun Watson and a 23 first or Herbert?
Herbert, 100%.
Okay, so we think. Okay, one more. I'm just trying to like tier this out. So Deshaun Watson 23 first or Joe Burrow?
Probably Burrow, honestly.
Okay. So we think the line's like. Would you do Lamar Jackson?
How old's Lamar Jackson? Is he 27?
He's 20. He's 25. He's about to turn 26.
25.
So he's about to turn 26.
I'd probably do it for him, honestly.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. So there's some ideas for you guys if you do have Deshaun Watson and you're looking to trade out in a super flex league. My first quarterback sell is going to be Derek Carr. I think there's a few reasons why I think Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr right now is just being hyped up because, of course, they added Devontae Adams and Darren Waller's back, and then they gave Hunter Renfrow that huge contract. Right now, he's the quarterback 15 on Keep Trade Cut, which I think is kind of high, especially considering the fact that he really doesn't have that much rushing upside. He is 31 years old. He does have the long-term deal, but does anyone really think he's the one that's going to lead the Raiders to the Super Bowl? I don't think so. So the Raiders kind of change everything on a year-to-year basis. We all saw what happened with Antonio Brown. That ownership group changes their mind on a year-to-year basis. That's not a great argument on why I think Derek Carr should be a sell. If we look on his last 3 years, so in 2019, 15.8 fantasy points per game. 2020, 17.6 fantasy points per game. And then last year, 2021, had 15.9 fantasy points per game. So, of course, we assume that's going to go up. But even if it goes up, let's say 3 fantasy points per game, which puts him at 18 fantasy points per game, that's not anything crazy that's going to help you like win your leagues or be crazy. And I see people thinking, oh, he can be my QB1 on a contender team or even like my QB2. Like, I'm not feeling solid with that. And so that is kind of why I have Derek Carr as myself. Any thoughts?
I feel good about him at QB2. I agree with you, not a QB1, just because he lacks rushing upside. I mean, I know we hit the nail on the hammer with that a lot, but if you look at all of the top QBs in the top 10 outside of like Mahomes, who does scramble a decent amount, I feel like he scrambles here and there. He's mobile enough, and then I mean, like Herbert's actually a pretty good runner too. If you've ever watched a lot of Herbert, but I feel like a lot of those names in the top 10, like you have like Josh Allen and Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts was right around there last year. A lot of them have that rushing upside. So I agree with you, not on the QB. Like, I wouldn't take him as QB1. I kind of like him right at QB15 where he's at. I feel like, dude, Derek Carr's a dog, first of all. Like, I know we're talking fantasy, but, dude, he is a dog. I don't think they're going to run it as much with Jacobs this year. He's got some great weapons. I mean, your point of look at the mess they were last year also could be flipped on it, and like Demian single-handedly drug them to the playoffs, especially against like the Chargers and the Colts.
No, for sure. Okay, so let's do a few different like trade scenarios for you. Would you rather have Derek Carr or Zach Wilson? Cougar boy, Zach Wilson.
depends on the timeline you're in, but the timeline I'm in, if you were in a neutral timeline, I don't know. I don't love Zach Wilson just because of all the hype that's coming out with his recent news breakings. That unfortunately that does not impact his fantasy stock. I don't know. I don't love him. Some people disagree hard with me on that one. I don't know if he takes a big step this year, but on the flip side, he's pretty old. I'd probably just keep whoever I had, honestly.
Okay. Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers?
Again, depends on your timeline, but Aaron Rodgers 100%.
Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback 19. Derek Carr is the quarterback 15 on Keep Trade Cut, which is ridiculous. Okay, final one for you. And I think this one's really close. Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins?
Derek Carr.
Really?
I mean, it's not. Noah would probably hardcore disagree, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Because Kirk Cousins is QB 20, and then of course Derek Carr's QB 15. So I thought that was kind of a wide range to be.
Derek Carr's a lot of weapons this year. Like, they didn't sign Devontae Adams to go run the ball with a guy they're not going to sign next year. Like, they're going to throw it. They're going to be in absolute shootouts this season, I think, is the other thing, being in that division they're in. I just see him throwing it more than he did last year. The rushing upside's not there, so it kind of caps his ceiling, but I like him. I think 15's about right for me, I feel like.
Okay, cool. Who's your second quarterback sell?
Kyla Murray, actually, interestingly enough. So when you asked me if I would want to sell him for Kyla Murray, I'm like, well, I'd sell both of them if I had both of them. I actually do have Kyla Murray in the league I'm in with you. And I also have Trey Lance in that league. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how this next season plays out. Kyler Murray does have that rushing upside, and I do like him. I think where I saw he's right around QB 4 or 5 right now in a lot of different places. And to me, the drop-off from someone who's right around that top 10 side is more appealing, especially with how much quarterbacks fluctuate. I mean, I think Kyler Murray the year before this last year was number 1 overall, if that sounds right. You see some regress. I mean, this year, I don't know. You saw some, does he want to play in Arizona? Like, some wish-washiness. I just feel like for the price where he's projected at, if you can move into a 10 or a 9 or like even like Joe Burrow, who's probably below him, like I would be interested in that even if you could get Joe Burrow with something especially. Just because, I don't know. It's a little safer option too with, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are I'm going to talk. Jordan's going to be listening to this and be like, oh, crap, I need to go trade in the loaf with Camden for Kyler Murray, but I'm going to beat him to it. Anyway, no, I agree with you on some points. I'm a big Kyler fan. I don't know. I just think with them adding Marquise Brown, they're adding the weapons around him. I know they had the whole offseason, like, are they going to trade him or is he even happy there? Like, I think he's just doing that to get the big contract, which I think is kind of risky for Arizona because, like we said, we haven't seen like a 5'10" quarterback last the way that he runs the ball and gets hit constantly. And like, I don't think
that's part of my also like concern. But I'd rather have someone. I mean, not that Joe Burrow's offensive line is amazing, but
it's getting better. It's better. It's probably going to be better than last year.
It is. I agree.
And if, you know what, if they have that indoor practice facility, maybe, his bones won't be so cold all winter and, maybe he'll be a little bit more
Joe
flexible.
Burrow, so they probably will still be pretty cold.
There's
the ice in his veins.
He's got the ice
freezing,
in the veins. Oh, man.
That's right.
But no, I like your take. So what would you, so if you had Kyler Murray and you're looking to sell, what are you potentially trying to sell him for?
Honestly, a lot of people in that top 10, that's like if you were to pull up,
okay, so let me go through some names. Okay.
Yep.
So Kyler Murray currently on Keep Trade Cut is the quarterback 6. Okay. So let's say for this practice, we're trying to upgrade. You don't want Kyler Murray, but you want someone else.
Sure.
So let's say, would you trade Kyler Murray for Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I would.
Would you? Okay, so if the Lamar Jackson owner said, I want a second, would you trade Kyler Murray in a second for Lamar Jackson?
No, I don't think I'd trade him and something. I think
you would
on
have
the flip side, you might be able to get like a Lamar Jackson in the second or something like that. I don't know if it's much of it will be kind of hard to upgrade at that position. But I think the drop off from moving out from like someone else in the top 10 from him, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think you get decent value there. That's a way that I would try to create value for my team, I guess.
Okay, cool. If you're trying to, so let's say you're trying to trade down, would you trade, let's say Jalen Hurts and a 24 first
No.
for Kyler? No.
Jalen Hurts, I like him. He's the guy having a different one of my dynasty teams. He has a rockier future than Kyla Murray, and I don't. His ceiling isn't as high, at least from what we've seen from him before. So no. The 24 first is interesting. It also just depends who you have at QB on your roster, I guess, but probably not.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't really have any more trade options. Like, I mean, you're talking like a Dak Prescott. I'm probably not trading Kyler Murray for Dak, and the Dak
Probably
owner's going to
not.
have to give like a second or a first, and that's probably not going to be enough because that's kind of the
Like
tier.
if you have other good quarterbacks though, and your team's not very good, like if you could fetch a bunch of firsts, like honestly, I don't hate it personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't know, in 5 years, you think he's going to be with the way the quarterbacks are evolving? It seems like everyone's like a Kenobi, like has some rushing upside, has massive arms. Like shoot, the class that Arch Manning's in, I've heard he's wildly overrated, just because of his name.
Yep.
But you have some quarterbacks in that class where you probably have 3 or 4 that are going to be first round picks out of that class. So just looking towards like, and that would be what, class of 2026.
Yeah.
I want to say. So I mean, we're kind of getting the horses ahead of the cart here. Wait, no, the cart ahead of the horses. I don't know. Anyway, but like I just feel like the way the quarterbacks are moving, you have a lot of like promising quarterbacks. Like if you could get a lot of picks from them, you can create value in other positions. I mean, you could get 2023 first, for example. There's going to be a lot of good quarterbacks in this class. You get the wide receiver class, it's just as strong as the last one. You have all these running backs. I don't know. If you could build a lot of like multiple firsts, I think you could turn it into something more valuable than Kyler with the prospects anyway that are coming out of college.
So, Bull, you mentioned a great point. So, class of 2026 is starting to look strong, boys. So, what we got to do and think about right now, the 2025 picks are open on Sleeper. So, you heard it here, folks. Next offseason, you need to be trading for 2026 picks, accumulating those bad boys because those are going to be like 2023 first in a few years. And
the kid who's going, where did he just commit? Was it
Georgia, the big guy?
Number 2. No, he's like number 2 in that 2026 class. Where did he go? He is a monster. Goodness gracious! If you ever watch some highlights of him throwing the ball and running, he is gonna be unreal.
All I know is Ohio State because I follow a lot of Ohio State. We got the 2024 number 1 quarterback locked up, so that's I'll take that win. But I didn't see
Notre Dame and Ohio State are kind of battling out right now for. Was it the 2020? Is it 2023 or 2024 class?
2023.
They keep flipping back and forth.
It's getting heated.
Ohio State's in the lead last time I looked because they just signed. Who did they just sign? I was supposed to commit to Notre Dame actually. Funny enough.
Yeah. I think Matthews was his name.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be a bloodbath for the next few years between Notre Dame and Ohio State, but that's besides the point. We are a dynasty channel, and maybe we should start our own little college football channel on the side or something. But I'll go into my last sell is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence did not have a good year last year, averaged only 12 fantasy points per game. There weren't a ton of like highs, but there is some hope. So I'll give you the hope before I like slam him down on why I'm trying to sell him off. So he had 73 carries last year, which is a lot higher than what people usually think because he was the quarterback 5 on like a carry basis. I know Lamar Jackson got hurt, so let's just say I think Lamar Jackson was like quarterback 4 or 5. So he's probably
what was Herbert on that list?
He's a quarterback 3.
Okay, I was gonna say he gives me a Herbert vibe in the sense of like if he puts it on the ground, he's like sneaky good at running it, but he's not a run first quarterback.
Yeah, he torched Ohio State back in his Clemson days when he played us in the finals. But so right now, Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback 11, and I just don't see a ton of way for him. Well, unless he balls out like Herbert, I don't see there's any way that he can move up those rankings because I'll list them names up ahead. So maybe Jalen Hurts potentially if Jalen Hurts has a really down year, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, and then you get into the Daks, the Kylers. I don't know. It just seems hard to me to believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to take that second year jump. Now maybe he's going to be Peyton Manning and go from throwing 20 interceptions to being a freaking GOAT. I just don't know. I don't
To your
know.
point, that him improving is kind of already built into that quarterback 11.
Yeah.
So I agree. I mean, you watch some clips of the Jaguars though, where their right tackle doesn't move. He just stands up and then he throws the pass and hits the dude in the hands when he's wide open and just like drops it. It's like I don't think Trevor Lawrence was getting a completely fair shake last year, but to your point, how's he going to improve on quarterback 11? Because that has a lot of hope built into that. I feel like.
So let's go through some trades. So of course, like Matthew Stafford's like right behind Trevor Lawrence. I'd probably prefer Matthew Stafford, even if I was rebuilding, just because Matthew Stafford and two. I think that's the other thing. A lot of us think these quarterbacks like let me get the young stud. Like let me trade like Zach Wilson, like we kind of talked about earlier, like Derek Carr for Zach Wilson or something. Where like these young quarterbacks haven't proven anything, and like these teams, if they're bad, they're gonna have high picks and have every shot to just take the next guy and on
Oh,
to the next one.
absolutely. And at some point, I think we all need a reminder, myself included, like you can't rebuild forever. Even like you know what I mean. Like at some point, there's a balance between normal fantasy and like rebuilding per se. So I agree. A lot of times, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, you want all the young studs, but then all of a sudden, all the young studs don't turn out, and you've been rebuilding for 6 years, and you're not having fun.
If you really like a guy, I think it's okay to go after someone. But if you're simply evaluating a player and they're kind of similar, and you just take the younger guy, even though he might be like a little worse just because he's younger and hasn't proven anything, I don't know. Yeah.
So let me give you a trade. Would you trade? So let's say you have Trevor Lawrence. Would you
Okay.
trade Trevor Lawrence for Justin Fields?
No, because I hate Justin Fields. I think he's not going to be very good in fantasy. But
would you trade Trevor Lawrence for Deshaun Watson? You're rebuilding anyway.
That's an interesting one. I don't hate it. I don't know where I fall on that one. It's kind of interesting.
Okay. I think you might be able to do this one.
I feel like I'm leaning towards yes, but I'm pretty neutral on it just because Deshaun Watson has shown that top tier capability, whereas Trevor Lawrence hasn't. So, I mean, basically, you're banking on which one of them is going to improve the most and be the closest to number one overall the most.
Would you trade Trevor Lawrence and a second for Russell Wilson?
How old is Russ? 37?
No, Russ is only 33.
Oh, yeah, I'd do it then.
Okay.
I think,
cool.
Yeah.
Would you do Trevor Lawrence and a first or Lamar Jackson? 23 first. Should clarify.
23 first? Ooh. I don't know. It's a tough one. It depends how much you like Lamar Jackson, I guess. I don't know. My home leagues, a lot of leagues I play in are not super flex. So I feel like I do have some kind of bias away from the quarterback, like naturally, just because they're not very important at all in our leagues.
We need to get you into some super flex leagues.
Yeah. I just intrinsically feel like getting a top 5 pick or the best crop in like 2023 and moving on every year sets you up really well. I mean, again, that goes back to like you gotta do well sometime. You can't always tank, but I don't know. 2023 first, I think that has the most value over the last 2 drafts for sure. I mean, this is gonna be one of the best drafts for a while, I feel like.
See, I think the problem that I always like, I was doing some studying. We'll transition this like slightly to go off topic to talk about 23 first. But I was doing like, so quarterback wise, like it seems like there's really only still 2 guys, like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Now there are like a bunch of quarterbacks that like potentially there. You got Anthony Richardson for Florida. You have a Will Levis for Kentucky, who's like climbing up the boards, and then the guy from Clemson, whatever his who absolutely sucked last year, even though he was supposed to be like, the next guy up. I forget what it was his name. It starts with a U. I know that much.
Yeah. Who
But
scored like 6 points or 3 points against
yeah,
Georgia.
yeah. He was like hyping himself up. Like he was like a Heisman favorite and then like absolutely tanked. So you have like, okay, let's say like two really top quarterbacks. Then you have Bijan, and then
See, but
Jamar
that's more
Gibbs.
like if you were to get him and Trevor Lawrence, like him and Trevor Lawrence has more value than Lamar Jackson to me.
I guess what I was at least like even what I guess I was trying to say is like when I calculate like the top tier, like let's just say like elite guys, we got like six picks,
You only
like
think
the
there's
top
6
six.
like super elite guys?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me
Dude,
go through
that's
my.
okay.
Okay, let me go. So we got Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, 2, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Keyshawn Butte. Okay, so then you got like a bunch of guys that are like still like TBD. So you got like Jordan Addison, like potentially. I'm trying to think. You got like Zach Evans, Sean Tucker. You got like a bunch of these guys that are like, and then we don't know what's happening with Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Like a bunch of those guys could push up in. I guess there is the Notre Dame tight end too, but like I don't put those guys as like, you know, like
It depends what every trade by cut, every trade, who you pick up, who you don't pick up, comes down to where you're at with your team, honestly. So there's always going to be some a little bit not complete 100% accuracy when we say this person's a buy, this person's a cut. This is all situational, but I don't know. I feel like most people I talk to in most dynasty leagues, there's at least 1 or 2 guys who just have a way better team than everyone. So what ends up happening is 6 or 7 guys in the league, at least, are not tanking, but like wouldn't mind losing. I don't know. That's where like I'd almost rather try to hit a home run in the draft if I'm not one of those top 2 guys than I would. I don't know, trade out because like I guess the upside is you got Lamar Jackson, great. Like you gave up something to build on, so your team doesn't get that much better. Like yes, you upgrade at quarterback position, whereas if Trevor Lawrence does take that step, and let's say he is deserving of QB 11 next year, even a little bit higher maybe, then you've kept some really good quarterback value, and now you have a good, I mean, essentially 50-50 shot. And on the flip side, if Trevor Lawrence is terrible and he's one of your starting QBs, maybe that makes you worse and you get a better first-round pick. And you land one of those 6 guys you were talking about. So I'd probably land on the Lawrence side on that one, but it's kind of close. Just situational. I mean, if you have a really great roster and he's your second QB or even your first QB, like yeah, I think Lamar Jackson makes a lot of sense there. But
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think these quarterback rankings are super tight, especially once you get to like QB 8 through QB 12 to 13. It just gets like super murky for me.
what's like your most predictable position you feel like where you can like point to certain guys and be like, yep, they're gonna be in the top, whatever.
Like,
Just
what do
to
you mean?
me, like so I feel like quarterbacks are just like they just shuffle around a lot, and you might have like your top 10, like the order they finish just like changes around all the time, and whereas like running backs, some of your top running back, it's really injury dependent. Quarterback position's not as injury dependent. Like running backs, I mean, you could see Cordell Patterson come out from the top bar and be a wide or running back 1 for a lot of the year. You can have Derrick Henry doing his normal stuff when he's not hurt. Like running back is so I don't know, but like quarterback, I feel like it's more predictable, but they just like shuffle every year. So like what wide receiver to me is the most predictable position. Not that anything's predictable in fantasy football. Maybe outside of tight end. I kind of throw a tight end out because there's like not a hand. Like there's clearly tier breaks in tight ends that are very obvious for most people. But I don't know what position would you feel the most confident if you had to rank them right now that at the end of the year they're gonna be the most spot on?
Wide receiver, running back, quarterback, tight end.
You think running backs more than quarterbacks?
Oh, for sure, because quarterback's so unpredictable. Like if you would have told me last year, like I had Lamar Jackson finishing as like QB3, and then of course, I mean, granted he did get injured, but I think on a points per game basis, he wasn't. He was like quarterback 8 or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think quarterback, it's just so hard because you don't know like what offense is going to be truly elite and going to like take
Yeah.
over. And
Yeah.
I think this is another reason why in your redraft leagues, I know we're a dynasty channel, but we also, I mean, everyone plays redraft every year in their home leagues or whatever. Like that's why you have to wait on quarterback, because the difference, I mean, granted, if you can get like a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in like the 4th round, like take it. But otherwise,
So
that's why you wait on quarterback.
so the last 2 years in redraft and in dynasty, but I took Josh Allen in the 10th round during his breakout year 2 years ago.
Flex
And
on
then
him.
I took Jalen Hurts last year, similar like position, just like super late. I think Trey Lance is a good candidate for that. Maybe this
That's
year.
exactly who I was
I
going to say.
love personally going later on QBs and taking, I guess, really beefing up, especially on depth, those wide receiver, running back, tight end positions. And then, I don't know, because tier quarterback is really unpredictable. There are tier breaks for it, but
If you could get like, let's say, for instance, Deshaun Watson, like maybe they don't come out with like the suspension news until like later this month. But a lot
yeah,
of people, but like let's say like it's 6 to 8 games. If you could draft Trey Lance like as your like starter and then get like Deshaun Watson as your backup, or like vice versa, however that is, because you'd probably only have to spend like, you draft him as like the quarterback 12 and then like the, like we said, like the quarterback 15 or 16, like you're set.
yeah. I mean, I mean, if you were doing super flex, like we'll just say like a best ball league or something like
Mhm.
that, like dude, I don't hate the idea of like a Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, like Kirk Cousins, like a Derek Carr and a Matthew Stafford. If the rest of your positions are just like super beefy, like personally, I mean, I don't know. I've always been hammer the running backs guy because I always feel like come middle of the year, especially end of the year, what's everyone wanting? Running backs. There's a lot of people, if they do draft running backs, they go, we'll take like Christian McCaffrey and someone else, and now McCaffrey's dead. So now they have one running back, or people go, it always just seems like there's an influx of wide receivers, and you can get wide receivers for incredibly cheap compared to running backs if you evaluate like the draft position they were at. So that's my take. A lot of people will disagree and say I go zero running back and I pick up Cordell Patterson and all that, but let's be honest, that takes a lot of luck sometimes depending on your waiver position. If you've, I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I think this year especially, I've seen a lot of like redraft mocks or whatever, and it just feels like it's like the best year to just hammer running back. If you can do running back the first 3 rounds,
First three out of 4 rounds, probably for me. Unless there's a wide receiver on the board in round 3 that's like wowing, I'll probably go 3 share running backs, maybe 4. It just depends on who's there. Because the value you can get halfway through the season or later when running backs start going down, and I mean, even for the depth of your own team, you can get some pretty good running backs in round 4 that will be close enough in your flex that if you're starting them in your flex, for example, you can flip someone who's scoring more at a wide receiver position for that running back if they're doing decent because that person needs someone in the actual running back slot. It just frees up so much on your roster.
I just saw a best ball draft. Okay, 106. Listen to this start. This was incredible. 106, he gets Christian McCaffrey, which let's be clear, I posted on TikTok today that
I
Christian
agree
McCaffrey
with
is my
that. Yeah,
RB1. But he got him at the 106. 206 got Saquon Barkley. After last, like I understand why he's fallen to the
I'm
second,
out on
but
Saquon. I think I sold him. I sold him in one of my leagues, and in the league I'm in with you, Jordan or Caleb. He's on the market if you want him. You might be able to strike up a good deal.
well, I think I understand for dynasty. I think for if we're like I'm talking more like redraft best
Oh,
ball.
okay.
But yeah, so he got one out to 206, and then 306 he got Travis Etienne. I was like, I mean, one of those guys is gonna go bananas.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like if one of them goes down, guess what? You still have 2 really good running
Two
backs.
really good running backs. So
Like, yeah, I mean, and there's always that one running back who slips, who shouldn't slip in every single draft. Like last year, I think I got Derrick Henry at 5, and then Eckler at 17. And a lot of you guys are like, how did people let Eckler go to 17? Like, I agree with you to that on that standpoint. I was ecstatic, but there's always a case like that where there's a guy who probably shouldn't slip as far who did, and I mean maybe it's Aaron Jones this year who's slips to late second, maybe late third. I don't know where Aaron Jones is going to end up in redraft position, but like if imagine if he's your RB3 and you're starting Aaron Jones in the flex this year, like you'd be in a decent spot for running backs. I mean, and you can draft. You have the luxury of drafting like a Jared Judy or like last year the perfect example would have been Debo Samuel and Calvin Ridley a couple of years before back. I think I got him in like 7th or 8th round, and he was a wide receiver 1 that year. Like wide receivers have a lot more upside than running backs do in a lot of degrees. So I personally like, unless you're getting like a Devontae Adams or not, he's not even a good example. I don't know. I agree with you. This is the year more than ever to hammer running backs.
Robust RB is my strategy this year going into redraft. But anyway, this has been a great evening here with me and Camden. No, we miss you, but to anyone still here, like we appreciate you guys. Appreciate if you guys would follow, subscribe to us on YouTube, like all of our videos. We're trying to grow, trying to get more subscribers. So appreciate all the support and love we've gotten so far, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.